You know this look. You have seen it 100 times. Over the edge of the couch, from the kitchen doorway, in the 2 seconds before you reach for your coat. The head tilts a little, the forehead lifts, and those eyes get bigger, softer, almost pleading. Most people call it the puppy dog eyes and leave it there, a cute quirk, a trick your dog learned to get a treat. But here's the part almost no one knows. That expression is not a trick your dog picked up. It is written into the muscles of her face. And the strangest thing scientists discovered is who those muscles were built for. Not other dogs, not wolves, you. Her face physically changed over thousands of years to speak to one specific animal, the human, standing in front of her right now. To understand why, you have to look at a single tiny muscle just above the inner corner of the eye. Its name is a mouthful, the levator anguli oculi medialis. Researchers just call it the LAOM. When it contracts, it does one small thing. It lifts the inner edge of the eyebrow. That is it. One little tug upward. But that one movement changes everything about how a face reads. Lifting the inner brow makes the eyes look bigger and rounder. It exposes a little more of the white. And it creates that gentle, slightly worried, slightly sad shape that we instantly recognize. Because it is almost exactly the face a human child makes when it wants comfort. In one flicker of a muscle, your dog goes from calm animal to something that pulls straight at your heart. Now here is where it gets remarkable. In 2019, a team led by Dr. Julianne Kaminsky at the University of Portsmouth published a study in the journal PNAS that asked a simple question: where does this muscle come from? So they did something few people had ever done. They dissected the faces of dogs and compared them, muscle by muscle, with the faces of wolves, the closest wild relatives dogs descend from. What they found was startling. In dogs, the LAOM was a real, formed, functional muscle. In wolves, it barely existed. Where the dog had a muscle, the wolf had only, in the researchers' words, a scant and irregular cluster of stray fibers. No structure, no power, nothing that could lift a brow and make those eyes go soft. The wolves simply could not make the face, and the team went further. They didn't just look at anatomy under a lamp. They watched living animals. They exposed dogs and wolves to a person for 2 minutes and filmed their faces. The dogs raised their inner eyebrows far more often and far more intensely than the wolves ever did. The expression that melts you was, in the wolf, almost completely absent. There was a second muscle in the picture too. Along the outer corner of the eye, dogs also had stronger fibers that pull the eye wider toward the ear, working together with the inner brow lifter to open the whole eye up. Wolves had less of this as well. 2 muscles, both pointing the same direction, toward a bigger, softer, more readable eye, toward a face a human cannot ignore. Think about what that means. Somewhere in the tens of thousands of years since dogs split from wolves, a brand new muscle quietly grew into the dog's face. Anatomy does not usually move that fast. A whole new facial muscle appearing in a handful of tens of thousands of years is, in evolutionary terms, astonishingly quick. Something was pushing hard on that change, and the researchers believe that something was us. To feel how strange that is, compare it to almost anything else in the body. Bones, organs, the shape of a limb. Those change slowly, over hundreds of thousands or millions of years. A muscle that appears in the face this fast is not the pace of ordinary nature drifting along. It is the pace of something being actively selected, hard, in one direction, over and over. And the only force in the dog's world doing that selecting was the human sitting across from it. Here is how they think it happened. When dogs began living alongside humans, likely more than 30,000 years ago, we were, without ever meaning to, choosing. Every time a dog made a face that looked a little more childlike, a little more expressive, a little more like it needed us, we felt a pull. We fed that one first. We kept it closer. We let it sleep by the fire. We did not do it on purpose. We did it because that face reached into something old and protective inside us and squeezed. And so, generation after generation, the dogs with slightly stronger, slightly more mobile brow muscles had a quiet advantage. They got a little more care, a little more food, a little more of the safety that comes from being loved. Over thousands of years, that invisible preference built an actual muscle. Your dog's face was sculpted by nothing more than which dogs humans could not resist. There is one detail in the study that makes the whole picture even clearer. Almost every breed the researchers examined had the developed LAOM, except one, the Siberian Husky. The Husky is an ancient breed, one of the closest to the original wolf-like dogs, split off early from the rest. And in the Husky, that muscle was still underdeveloped, still closer to the wolf. It is like catching evolution in the middle of the sentence, a living snapshot of the face before it finished becoming the face we know. But a muscle only matters if it does something. So the deeper question is, why does this expression work so powerfully on us? Why can't you look at it and stay unmoved? The evolutionary psychologist Bridget Waller, who worked on the research, points to what the movement imitates. When the inner brow lifts, the resulting face closely resembles the expression humans make when we are sad. We are wired, deeply, to respond to sadness in a face, to move toward it, to soothe it, to protect. Your dog's eyebrow movement borrows that exact signal. It quietly presses the button in your brain marked, "Take care of this one." Dr. Kaminsky put it plainly. When dogs make the movement, she said, it seems to elicit a strong desire in humans to look after them. That is not sentiment. That is measured behavior. The face works on you the way a baby's face works on you, below thought, before you have decided anything. And if you want proof that this expression carries real weight in the real world, there is a second study that should stop you cold. Before the anatomy paper, some of the same researchers watched dogs inside a rehoming shelter. They recorded how often each dog made that inner brow raise while a person stood in front of the kennel. Then they tracked which dogs got adopted, and how fast. The result was clear. The dogs that made the puppy eyes more often were rehomed significantly faster. Not the biggest dogs, not the ones that barked the most or wagged the hardest. The ones who could lift that inner brow and look, for a moment, like they needed you. That single expression was, quite literally, changing which dogs found a home. In a shelter, that face is not cute. It is survival. And look at what that tells us about the whole long story. The exact same pressure that is at work today, in a modern kennel, with a family walking down a row of dogs deciding who to take home. That is the pressure that has been shaping the dog's face for 30,000 years. It has not stopped. Every time a human chooses the dog with the softer, more expressive eyes, the wheel turns one more notch. You are not just watching evolution's result. You are, in your own small way, still part of it. Now, some people hear all this and feel a little cheated. They think, so my dog is manipulating me. So it is all just a trick to get fed. But that is the wrong way to read it, and there is a piece of research that shows why. In an earlier study, Kaminsky's team tested whether dogs make this face more when a human is actually paying attention to them. And they do. Dogs produce the inner brow raise much more when a person is facing them and looking at them, and far less when the person turns away or can't see them. Read that again. Your dog is not firing off the expression like a reflex, blind to the room. She is aiming it at you when you are watching. This is not a treat-hungry twitch. It is communication. She is trying to reach you, and she has learned that when your eyes are on her, the message lands. So no, she is not conning you. She is talking to you in the only language her face was built to speak. A language that, remember, evolved for exactly one listener. Everything about that expression, from the muscle that powers it to the shape it makes to the feeling it stirs, was shaped over thousands of years to bridge the gap between her species and yours. It is the closest thing to a word that her face can form. And the word is you. And this is where the story stops being only about her face and starts being about the space between the two of you. Scientists have found that when a dog and its owner simply look into each other's eyes, something happens inside both bodies at once. Both of you release oxytocin, the same bonding hormone that surges between a mother and her newborn. Her gaze raises it in you. Yours raises it in her. You fall into a quiet loop, each one deepening the other. Just by holding a look. Now put the two pieces together. Her face evolved a muscle whose whole purpose is to pull your gaze to her eyes. And when your gaze lands there, both of you flood with the chemistry of love and belonging. The expression is not just a signal. It is the doorway into that loop. That soft, wide-eyed look is how she opens the connection. And your answering gaze is how you step through it. The two of you have been running this circuit together, silently, for as long as you have known each other. That is the thing to hold on to. This was never one-directional. Her face reached for you, yes, but you are built to be reached. Your species and hers grew toward each other across an unimaginable stretch of time, until a wolf that could not make this face became an animal that sleeps at your feet and lifts its brows the moment you walk in. Two different species, and somewhere along the way you learn to speak to each other without a single word. Sit with that for a second. The next time your dog looks up at you and her eyebrows lift and her eyes go soft and impossibly big, you are not just watching a cute habit. You are watching the result of 30,000 years of two species growing toward each other. You are watching a muscle that wolves do not have, doing the one job it was built for, reaching a human. Reaching you. Her face changed, not by accident, and not for another dog. It changed to hold your gaze, to move something in your chest, to make sure you would never quite be able to walk out that door without looking back. That expression is not asking for a treat. It is the oldest kind of bond there is, written into muscle. It was made for you, and you have been answering it your whole life without knowing why. And maybe give yourself a little grace for every time it has worked on you. Every extra treat. Every walk you thought you were too tired for, and did anyway. Every moment you canceled your own plans because she looked at you a certain way. That was not weakness. That was 30,000 years of design doing exactly what it was built to do. She reached, and you answered. The way humans have been answering that face since before we built cities, before we wrote a single word. So the next time she gives you that look back a little longer, because now you know what you are really seeing. Not a trick, a message thousands of years in the making, from her face to yours.